Welcome to episode 112 of Nobody Special.
This episode, we talk about media choices and whether we should watch them.
The Gospel Outpost presents Nobody Special. Hey everyone, welcome to Nobody Special, two nobodies talking about the somebody who matters. I'm Danny, the host and Netflix sommelier of Nobody Special.
And I'm Caleb, you're the host of Nobody Special. This is a podcast where two generations of people talk about God, pop culture, politics, and everything in between, all while not taking any of it too seriously. We're back. One more episode. I know you hate when I say that, but
from
we are
where?
back.
We're back from
where? From quarantine. It's been 2 years,
We're still
Danny.
in quarantine. Yeah, it's been 2 years.
I know we've brought this up the past, 50 episodes? But
no, so all right, for banter, we need to clear some of the thoughts I've been having over the past few days.
Okay.
First of all, one of the questions, and this is a bit of a peek behind the curtain. This curtain specifically, and if you want to peek behind it, it's just wall. It's just wall. Anyway, just a bit of a peek behind the curtain. One of the questions I asked Caleb before we start taping is, "Hey Caleb, how does my hair look?"
Oh, I thought you were about to say something else.
Last episode,
yes,
you said,
"Looks good, Danny."
And we now have clear video evidence that you lie.
What?
You lie.
What? Okay, what?
You
Show me this.
lied.
Show me this thumbnail. I'm going to pull this up right now because I don't believe you.
Editor, put it on the screen. That's going to be you, so if you could help me out with this joke.
We'll see.
It was really bad. It was bad.
Was it bad?
And not just
Of course, this is an opening.
A quarantine, I haven't had a haircut in a while. Not that I'm going to. But, man, that was bad. That was one of my least favorite things I've personally done or had done to my hair in a while. You can't see.
I don't remember it looking terrible.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, man.
What? That looks good.
We'll zoom in.
You look nice and gangster.
No. That was not great.
Sure,
anyway,
it looks a little mushroomy.
So I started, I started putting product back in my hair again, and then I was shut up. I was combing my hair. Why is that on?
Danny.
Real professional start to this one. And I actually put a middle part back in my hair.
Right.
Because I was going for a Matt Mercer critical role kind of a thing.
Yeah, don't do that.
I can't. I looked at it.
It looks fine right there because you had a bandana. But
the middle part, I had it growing up, and it's kind of the same thing. Like no one ever. No, that's not true. People definitely told me it was bad, but I needed an intervention. So anyway, I'm back to product in the hair.
You need an intervention. I mean, we got to talk about some more things.
Yeah. Also, there's a movie that I know you're really excited to talk about.
Am I?
That something just occurred to me.
I love talking about movies.
Something just occurred to me watching through the trailer again and a couple behind-the-scenes things because all of us are stuck inside and I was just watching. Do you know the character Taskmaster?
From what, Marvel?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So he's coming out in a movie that I know I'm excited about, and his in the comics, his specific power is he can copy moves just by watching them, and that didn't occur to me even as Taskmaster in the trailer did this, kind of put up both hands. That's Black Panther, and then he pulls out a bow and arrow, and that's Hawkeye, and he does some other things, and it's just the Avengers.
What trailer is this?
Huh?
What movie is this for? Why
Why
are you trying to hide this from me, Danny?
Well, no, because, it sounds as if it's a pretty cool character that you would love to go see, right?
Is this Black Widow?
It's Black Widow.
God. Oh, man.
Hard pass still?
Yeah.
Hard pass? Okay.
I'll watch it.
Yes,
I'm not going to be happy about it.
That's correct.
Because it's a dumb movie.
It's not a dumb movie. It looks really cool.
Like, why are they making it? She's dead. And if you haven't seen it, watch it. She's dead.
Oof.
And that's it. It's over.
But like twice. Oh no, that was a messed up death. I don't like that
Like,
one.
had this happened before, yeah, I'd be interested. Even though I
Right.
still hated the character.
You did.
It's dumb. I mean, she's
You have
never
an unnatural hatred
had a
towards
lot-
Natasha Romanoff.
She's never had a lot of character development. They've just kind of left her stale and dry and sitting there
But
after
this is her
Age of
character
Ultron.
development.
Like, they built up the thing with the Hulk and her, and then it just ran out of air quickly after that movie. It just
Right.
died. They didn't bring it up.
But I blame that on the Hulk being able to carry a movie talking to you,
Like-
Ed Norton.
Like, how do
You
you
know.
go a whole movie building up this whole love romance, and then after they haven't seen, he's been in
Mhm.
freaking space for
Mhm.
years,
Right.
and then he comes back, and then he's like, Natasha, and then she's like, Bruce, and then that's it.
I've moved on. Like, why? Yeah. No, I do get that. That was weird.
And then she died.
Right.
You know, like, they just threw her away.
I appreciate they're telling her backstory, and I'm all about it. And
I like David
That's-
Harbour, and that's it. Did we already talk about this? I feel like we already talked
we
about
did,
this on
but
this podcast.
I wanted to point out how it took me that long to figure out Taskmaster was just copying moves, even though he did the Wakanda Forever.
Mhm.
Listen, I've been thinking about other things, and I haven't had time to put in the effort there.
I haven't watched the trailer, so it's probably bad.
It's pretty
but
good.
I'll have to check it out.
No, you're not going to. Don't don't pretend.
Don't lie.
It'll be neat. So, Caleb, what have you been doing throughout this past few days? Anything fun or?
I have been working
Uh-huh.
and eating lots of Zaxby's.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Zaxby's, hey, settle an argument for us. What is the Zaxby's sauce?
It is not Thousand Island.
It's
which
very
is what
Thousand
Danny
Island-esque.
believes.
I
No, it
will
is
say
not.
that.
It is nothing like.
Have you ever had Thousand Island
Yes,
dressing?
I've had Reuben's. It's
So
one of my
you
favorite
know.
sandwiches.
Now, Reuben, the corned beef, ruins the taste. I actually don't enjoy corned
It's
beef.
sweet, and Zax sauce is not sweet.
So let us know in the comments what you think Zax sauce is, or this will turn into a food podcast where we have to go get DoorDash. Will you? No. Is it open? No. Okay, we're good.
It's probably open.
But yeah, no, that's been a real thing for me. I've had to quarantine from my kitchen, so I don't keep eating. I found that's the thing of like, oh, I'm not hungry. I'm just bored. So
Yeah.
finding new things to do. I've actually been playing a few more video games just because I had a bit of extra time, reading
Right.
more, and been enjoying it. I've been playing
good.
Fallout. Here's the deal. In Fallout, a certain country
Mm-hmm.
lobs a whole bunch of nukes at a lot of people,
Right.
and then I'm scrounging to hoard toilet paper in order to build my settlement.
Like one does.
And then I started playing Fallout. Da-dum-tis! Like, seriously, I was playing this game, and I was thinking, like, so China ruined the world, and then... This is maybe getting a little too political, not what I mean, but I was playing the game, and it just got very surreal for a moment that I'm like, so we're wandering around looking for toilet paper to build our settlement, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I think I'm going to pick up a book now. This might be a little...
It's too real.
This stopped being a game, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's been everything I've been
So
up
you've
to.
been consuming some content.
I have.
That's kind of funny because, you know what we're talking about today?
No.
We're talking about the consumption of content.
Are we though? That's great.
Specifically, movies and television.
Well,
and
media
games
as a whole.
too. Yeah, media as a whole.
Media as a whole, because there's some other things I want to take some jabs at too. But I mean, all of us are stuck inside, and consuming abnormally high amounts of media.
Yes.
Whether it's Netflix, YouTube. Some are still on Disney Plus. Some
Yeah.
are still on Hulu.
I saw a depressing thing. I hate when Apple shows me statistics on how long
Yeah,
I've
you
been on
gotta
my
turn
phone
that
every day. It's like
Uh-huh.
really scary.
Right.
But I was on my phone for 6 hours the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that is...
Is that down or up?
That's up.
Me too.
What is that? Not high? That's a lot of time.
I turned
on your
on
phone.
YouTube and like worked through the background noise. So I actually got just the YouTube stats. It was sobering.
you just watch it on your computer sometimes.
I barely watch it. That's the thing. It's like it's just on.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like it's just lying.
It's someone talking
But
to
like
me.
your
That
phone,
sounds
you're
sad.
typically pretty active on.
Mhm.
Like that is a lot. Maybe people have more. I don't know. But for me, I typically let's see. In my day, I wake up. I might watch a TV show or a couple YouTube videos. Check Instagram sometimes. And I check Instagram probably occasionally throughout the day. I think
Right.
my time on social media before was around like 30 minutes a day, which is like pretty decent, I guess. Like I'm pretty quick on Instagram, but
Why are those numbers so low? You gotta get those
it's a
numbers
bunch
higher.
of it's a bunch of like short bursts,
Uh-huh.
and then I go home, and that's when it typically like increases, and I get my big chunks of like watching television if
Mhm.
it's even on my phone, and checking, Facebook and stuff like that. But like overall, gosh, 6 hours, like that is a lot of time.
Yes. I feel personally attacked right
How do you feel attacked?
Oh, because I know what my numbers are, and they're a little higher than 6. So
Well,
yeah.
we all have our own personal thing. I'm not judging you. Maybe
I'm
get off your
judging you.
phone.
Yeah,
I'm just
like,
kidding.
maybe go outside. No, like I've been trying to jog more too. So part of it is, I'll turn on a podcast and go for a jog.
Right.
So that counts as screen time, and I'm like, garbage. That does not. And it's sermons, so kind of like I need a version of the phone that breaks it down into was I doing spiritual things or not? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or kind of a phone that's a bit judgy of saying it's like, yeah, you spent 2 hours playing the puzzles of Sudoku. Really?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Or those, it's like you spent these on games and then you were playing these games which are dumb. I need that kind of feedback, but all of us are finding ways of coping, of being in quarantine, all in
Right.
different ways and manners, and a lot of people are turning to different forms of media, TV, movies, books, and all that. And personally, this is the thing I've been thinking about a good amount, especially over the past couple of months, is as Christians, I feel we should probably be a bit more aware of our media type choices.
Mhm.
Now, there are those things that as Christians, all of us can just flat on agree, like, yeah, this is not good, even if we engage in some of them, because I know their stats. I mean, pornography. No one on the Christian side is going to say, like, I'm doing this to honor God.
Yeah.
And if they are saying that, you're wrong. And I feel very comfortable saying such a hard and fast statement on that. Like, that's not God honoring, period.
Yeah.
Below that, it gets a little... That's the point that people start to draw different places in the sand of, is this appropriate or is this not appropriate? And
Right.
that, to be honest, is kind of the thing I was interested about talking about, of where do we draw that line?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good topic. I can
it-
sense it in my bones.
because part of it is, to me, media, TV shows, and that kind of stuff are kind of equivalent to the kitchen during quarantine. Just because it's there doesn't mean I have to eat it.
Mhm.
And I think if I could apply what I know about the kitchen to the TV, things might be better. But there's
Yeah.
some stuff on a YouTube, and it's not that I'm watching bad stuff; it's that I'm watching dumb stuff that I just don't think is worth my time.
Anime. What?
Not the marbles, not the anime. Back up. Anime's in here to
Marble
talk about.
is not worth your time. I don't want to bring this up again in this podcast, and I'm going to leave it here. How is watching inanimate objects roll around aimlessly
Some people get it, some
conducive
don't.
to time? Write the script, Danny, and stop watching your marbles.
No one has any idea what you were talking
I
about.
know, but we
Okay.
know what we're talking about.
Some people know, some people don't. That's fine. And I do have anime in here to talk about. So
Okay.
I do watch some
Yeah, I saw
animes.
your point on that. Yeah.
I do
yeah.
watch some anime. So,
Yeah.
Caleb, what's the criterion breakdown for you, I guess? Is that a good place to start?
Breakdown, like, of
Where's the line?
the line. That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
the line.
I think it's interesting because people draw it at different places.
Right. And I think the important thing to note, like, for me personally, and although, like, I'm going to say all this stuff, and it is what I believe, but I'm going to let you be honest, like, I am kind of being hypocritical throughout this because there are times when I do not follow what I believe, and that is due to sin nature and all of the above, you know, like, all that stuff.
Right.
So, like, I'm saying what I am aiming towards my life to end up, you know, if that makes
self.
sense. Yes, the ideal self.
Yeah.
And what I think is God honoring.
Mm-hmm.
So the line, I think we have to first, you know, I believe there needs to be some intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
Because before you ever get to a line,
right,
like, make sure you're not trying to find the line. I mean, it's kind of
right.
Everybody talks about that, you know,
right.
Like, and especially you. It's you
right.
love talking about, like, if you're
know the boundaries before you get there.
Yeah, exactly. If you're asking where the line is, you're too close already.
Right. Is it here? No, it was a mile back, dude. Yeah. Like, I'm a big proponent of that. Just like in not just in a moral things. I've found that even policies that are reactionary tend to be bad policies because they have to be made quickly, and there isn't the amount of thought and attention being given. In kind of a thing of if I put down a hard standard of, hey, I don't watch rated R movies, and I'm not saying I do that or don't do that, but if that is the standard I've put down beforehand, then if a person comes up and says, hey, Quentin Tarantino dropped a new movie, do you want to watch it? I can be like, no, it's rated R. And that's just a standard I have. Now, I'm not claiming if a person goes to those, they've departed the faith and, you know, they're no longer a Christian, because some of this is personal, but also there are aspects of needing to think about our media choices long before we actually get to them.
Right.
The biggest thing I can think of that Christians were pretty unprepared for was the criteria for 50 Shades of Grey. So people said, like, no, it's a book. It's this. It's pornography. Like, it's porn.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It's porn. And why did
you're not actually looking at it. It's just, I mean, until I'm in the movie. But,
right.
Like, yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I mean, so there were all these Christian women pulling it up as this beautiful story. And I'm like, nah, that's just, I don't find that to be
a story worth telling.
Redeeming content. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a thing that could have been addressed long before they got there, and could have gone, hey, oh, that's an interesting book. I'll read the back cover, and now I know I'm not reading it because I've already made those standards beforehand.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is a big thing, is standards. And I think that we all need to be honest with ourselves on, because everybody's different. That's
right.
The interesting thing about this topic is that some people's line is going to be, you know, further than where your line is, or further back,
right,
than where your line is. And I think that that's important to note. But my personal kind of philosophy is, you know, I think that nudity is a big thing in movies nowadays, and I do not think
type of nudity. Sorry, that sounds like a really pervy question.
Type of nudity,
as in, kind of the difference between in paintings, there's artistic nudes and sexual content, and the two are different. Personally, I'm not a fan of either.
Same, yeah.
No. I get it in some older art, like the Venus de Milo, that kind of stuff, that is trying to give this almost angelic feel, unclothed. Anyway, I don't agree with it in any sense.
Okay. All right. That's just kind of my rule of thumb, just because, I mean, I think that's something a lot of people struggle with, is pornography and stuff like that. And like I said, that is kind of a rule that I would like to follow. But like I said, I mean, this is what I believe in my ideal self. But I think nudity doesn't add anything. Like, to anything. Like in a film, it is easily avoidable. I do not think it is necessary. You can, if it is really necessary to the scene, there's artistic ways through cinematography that you can block out the nudity but still imply that they are nude, like I think Jaws is kind of a good example. The opening scene, it's at night, so she's like silhouetted, which still is kind of risque, but there's things like that, or things in the foreground blocking, like there's things that you can do to avoid it.
Right.
And to be honest, the only reason, like, it's not art to put nudity in things.
Right,
It
it's
is
shock.
Literally, not even that. It's just the appeal.
Yeah.
It sells. That's like a point that John Piper, I watched a video on, Desiring God about should people watch Game of Thrones, and that's a point that he brought up, is that it is something that sells. It is an appeal.
Right.
I wouldn't even call it shock. A lot of people, sometimes it is a shock. But if you do your research, and it says at the beginning of every film,
right.
It clearly warns you.
I mean, specific to Game of Thrones, that was the appeal of that. Not just the sex, but the fact that they pushed the boundaries. That was part of the appeal. They pushed the boundaries in things that got said, things that they showed, things in ways they killed people. Their intent was to push that boundary in every aspect, and people appreciated that. And now, as a person that's gone through most of the books, personally, I do not feel are as explicit. They're still explicit. They are not as explicit as the show, and that to me demonstrated that HBO was just trying to produce an HBO kind of a shocker that included all these explicit type things that got very kind of disturbing a bit. I mean, just because some of those characters became of age while on that show, and they gave them a sex scene, and it was just disturbing. Because that's a person that they've watched them since they're 14, and now they've grown up into this quote-unquote adult who's only 19, and it's like, this is uncomfortable. Because I don't know. No, I've never watched an episode of the show, but
I actually have watched. I mean, I think story-wise, it's a great show, and obviously I completely disagree with nudity and everything. And like I said, obviously, this is, once again, let me state, this is my ideal self.
Right.
It's kind of, being hypocritical in a sense, me talking about this, but it is very interesting because I believe, because I am in film and I want to eventually make it to the point where I'm directing or DPing stuff. And
director of photography.
Yeah. That's probably very...
For the uninitiated, director of photography.
And, having a very specific set of guidelines on stuff I want to make is important. But, a thing that is important to bring up, which is another point that John Piper brought up, is that, I know that you're probably going to bring up the argument of violence, murder, drug use, language, and language is an interesting one, which we will get into in a bit. But nudity is the only thing, besides language, but it's the only thing that is real in movies, and that's the point that he brought up. He's fine seeing violence and murder because we know that what we are looking at is not real. Although nowadays it looks very real, but it isn't. And it can be hard for our minds to decipher stuff like that. But overall, my rule of thumb when it comes to stuff is I like to stay away from stuff with nudity in it. Or at least skip through it, cover my eyes, whatever you got to do. Just because I think that for everyone, I don't care who you are, nudity is an appeal of some sort to you, whether it's subconscious or it's a huge struggle for you,
and I agree. I don't think there's a purpose in putting it in. And I've heard people say, like, well, no, you had to include this scene. Like, no, you didn't. Just be a better storyteller. Then that's fine. Because that is another person that you're watching what is intended to be a moment. And I don't care if it's scripted or not scripted. You shouldn't be watching it, and that's kind of the stance I take on that. To me, the big four, as far as content problems, and there are a few in there. Sorry, big five are sexual content, and we're on the same page on that. I don't think there's a need to include the graphic kind of sexual content, violent or. Is there a lot of blood and gore? I guess is kind of the thing of that. The amount of cursing, drugs, and spirituality actually include in there in the big five. There's a point that the amount of swearing a person actually pays attention to that gets expressed at a certain point. It's kind of a trash in, trash out type of a mentality for like programming, but also that's a bit of how our brains work. The content I put in my brain is the content my brain is able to express. As far as recall and other stuff goes, if I'm putting swear after swear after swear after swear after swear in my brain, then that primes the brain to be able to make that connection through this term. And there are points that I think there is too much. And granted, this is kind of the point it gets complicated because all these things are compounded by age of the person watching it, their maturity, and also stage and things they're going through. If it's a movie that swears every third word, well then I'm not going to show it to my elementary school kids. Do you know what I mean? It's like like contextually that's inappropriate to have them pay attention to that. But the thing I've always kind of struggled through that argument is at what age does it become appropriate? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's not that it becomes appropriate, it's that as adults, we feel we should be more inclined to filter it out. It doesn't start being appropriate. Like, it's adult language. I'm like, no, it's just bad language. I mean, at a point, it's... and I think there are people, if they're struggling through that kind of thing of swearing, they need to be a bit conscientious of the content that they're putting in. I actually enjoyed the thing that you brought up of you have to have a bit of being self-aware of your current season. Because I don't think a lot of people do that. Drugs, I get, and I know the thing you're going to say, and I'll leave space for it. To me, that is a context of what way are they being brought up? Is it a movie that glorifies drugs or not? There are movies that they have, I think Pineapple Express glorified the overconsumption and abusing of marijuana to an extent, and many other drugs, and they made it appealing to the person that's watching it. Others, they've demonstrated that the use of drugs leads to a decline in the person, and the message is very positive, although it includes explicit content, and that's a distinction I'm interested in making. And the biggest that I've ever seen confused by a lot of people is Scarface, because that dude isn't the good guy. His life is ruined. He snorts a this huge pile of cocaine, and then he goes out getting shot to death, and people still go, that guy's awesome. And have posters in their dorm of Scarface, Al Pacino, and I'm like, did you see a different movie? Like, did you see a different movie?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that
guy's great. I want to go out like that.
An important note is that, like, sometimes there is, like, it is hard to explain, but like, I don't know if I have a different mentality than people on watching movies, like completely, or if, you know, everybody has this, but like when I watch a movie, I am very conscious that I am watching a story, and that, you know, I don't have to let the things that are in there, whether it's a character, whether it's drug use, whether it's language, I don't have to let that affect me. Like, and being aware and putting that guard up beforehand.
Right.
I kind of think about it almost like the opposite of when I am going to listen to my church's sermon. You know, like when you go to watch a sermon, you open yourself up. You, I don't know what the right word is, till your soil. What is the word?
I mean, that's right. It just sounds weird when you say it.
Fine.
You till the soil of your heart. It just sounded really oversaved, I guess. I don't know.
Not even your heart, but like yourself. Like you tune in your ears to hear what God wants you to hear, and what, and you're kind of like vulnerable in that state. If you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
I do the opposite of that for movies, if that makes sense. Like, and I think that is an important thing to practice, because even freaking kid movies, you know, like that is not. There's things whether it's a character or something. There's always going to be something that isn't what you want to be, or what God wants you to be in any movie. Like, you can find anything, whether it's a bad guy.
Sure.
Yeah. You know, like, it is important to note that you have to go into watching a movie, and I've just done this. I feel like it's just a smart thing to do. Like, not expecting to receive anything from it, if you know what I mean.
Yes, and I'd say like 95% agree, because like and that is important to do, and I guess part of the purpose behind this is that I don't feel many people are doing that. They're just going like, as far as their thoughts go, it's, oh, this is cool, therefore I watch at the end. And as Christians, I do think it would behoove us to be a bit more discerning in our media choices, instead of just picking up a thing because other people are watching it or reading it. The other part is that there is this, the way the brain works out of a psychological perspective is that there are influences that occur, that we are being influenced even if we don't understand we're being influenced. I mean, influence doesn't need consent. And that's the weird part, is that if I do watch a whole bunch of content that is very sexual in nature, I am more prone, and they have studies to back this up, that I am more prone to be engaging in risky behavior of a sexual nature. Now, if this is, I started off there and I'm finding the media to back up the person I am, or the other way, that's difficult to test, because you would literally have to expose a blank slate to sexual content and see what they do, and that's horribly unethical. But there is this idea that there are these kind of passive influences that are taking a toll on us, in the same manner that there is a spiritual battle going on that none of us can see. And I do think there are times it would be better to be more cautious in what we rush to put in our head. I mean, you know, I'll be honest, movies even close to like Saving Private Ryan and Passion of the Christ, part of those I get it, and to me that's right on the cusp of that could go either way, as far as being violent.
Violent?
Yeah. I mean, because they're brutal, and for Passion of the Christ I'm more acceptable on that, and I'm okay on Saving Private Ryan because it is talking about the realities of war. There's a caution there that other stuff, those are bad examples. Other things might not be the best thing to engage in because of things going on we don't know.
Right.
I mean, I'm cautious, and I'll get to the anime part. I do watch anime, and all I want in an anime is ninjas fighting other ninjas. That's all I want.
Gosh.
I have low standards for that. That's all I want. And if I can find that, it's great. I have stopped watching multiple animes because they've stopped and said like, "I'll summon the third demon from hell," and you're like, but why though? And it's the good guy doing it, and I get there's cultural definitions of demon and blah 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 blah, but I'm like, there's a spirituality there that isn't good that I'm not going to engage in because, to be honest, I don't really know how it's going to affect me.
Right.
Because they're giving the demons as the good guys, and that's the part I'm like, I just can't. I can't engage in that, knowing the things I know about God and Christ and the spiritual dangers, and I can't keep engaging in that because of what I know.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to note, for me specifically, I believe, I mean, you might disagree, but from a universal and particular stance on these things, I think the universal line of where Christians should stop watching something, whether it's not watching the movie as a whole, or skipping through a certain part, or closing your eyes. Like, there is, which sounds really childish, but it works.
Do what you got to do. I mean, honestly, I've closed my eyes during parts.
Yeah. And I think that line stops at nudity. Like, there's no thing. But I think the particular lines for where you have to gauge and be honest with yourself on where you should stop. Like, for you, you said, there's spiritual stuff where you don't cross that line.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of the same way for certain things, whether it's like demonic horror movies or something like that. And then there's times where I personally, I'm fine with violence, language, and drug use just because, like, I mean, of course, like you said, everything subconsciously affects you, but from what I've seen in my life, it hasn't really affected me much. I'm still drug-free.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's
like,
more...
I see what you mean.
I watched a movie and now I do hard drugs. Like, no, it's not going to be that. But like it
over time, obviously, it
normalizes things that aren't supposed to be normalized.
Right. But, and this kind of gets into where I think that, like I said, we have to have the right mentality going in on, like, you are watching a story. And I feel like it's kind of confusing to explain what my point is here, but...
No, I think you're doing a good job.
I think that when I watch a movie, understanding that it is not real, but I'm listening to it as a story. And it's as simple as that. Like, it can have themes, whether it's good or bad. It can end poorly. It can have tons of drug use. But, like, I think for me personally that as long as you go in understanding, being honest with yourself on what type of movies you want to watch, and, like, really being honest with yourself, and then understanding that it is a story,
right,
that it doesn't have to influence you if you are intentional about it not doing that. Just like,
I guess my counterpoint to that, though, not really counterpoint, but I mean, the plot is just one aspect of a movie. There's also the theme and the message it's communicating. And there are a few movies that are very, like, almost underhanded. It's very clear, like, this is a political propaganda piece, period.
Right.
Or they're trying to kind of put out a specific point of view in order to normalize it, or that type of thing. They're trying to do that. It's not the plot, but it is the theme and the message behind it. And I guess that's the point that I'm willing to debate a bit stronger, or kind of not debate, but come down on a bit stronger. Is this a movie trying to actually promote things that are worth thinking about?
That scared.
Sorry, the fridge
me so much.
We good.
Man.
So that's part of the thing I'm thinking through is, okay, although the plot is great, and I'm a big plot guy, I love a great plot, but if the themes in there are dangerous, then to be honest, I'm kind of okay walking away from it a bit more. I'm trying to think of a good time it's done this. Well, like, all right, as far as far as there being a lot of gore in it. Now, I'll bring up a few things. First, Saving Private Ryan, Kill Bill, and a video game called Hatred. Okay.
I've never seen any of those.
Really? Okay. So I've seen 2 and watched a small playthrough of the game. So Saving Private Ryan is a very gory movie. As it came out, people that they are veterans, they actually walked out because the first part is very graphic, and they said it's not that they did a bad job, it's that they did too good of a job and I can't go through it again. And my heart goes out to those people, because to them, they're not watching a movie, they're watching essentially a documentary, because of how they experienced it. And I get that. It's a great movie though. I don't want to say
no. I mean, that's kind of, that's
they
like
thought, but they thought it was a war movie, and a ton of those.
A war movie.
As a person who didn't see it,
I know, but
you have to trust me that the graphic nature of this it's very, very disturbing and very gory. All right, at number 2, Kill Bill. Kill Bill is gory, and there's a lot of swearing, but we'll just put that away. Kill Bill is very gory.
Is that Tarantino?
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
it's Tarantino. There's a lot of blood.
I've never seen a Tarantino movie.
I've only seen Kill Bill, but the. And the message behind it is questionable, to be honest. It's a plot about trying to kill people that tried to kill you, and it's a revenge plot. And that's not, I wouldn't call that a godly characteristic. Now, I get it, but okay, so it's questionable. This final game of Hatred. Now, this is a game that you play a mass killer, go through schools, post office, police stations, and kill and shoot people. Now, this to me is an inexcusable game that should not have been made, because of the messaging behind it is so bad and terrible that there isn't anything about it that is redeeming. Of the 3, it is the least gory and thing I'm most okay claiming absolutely not. And to me, that kind of context is important in that kind of distinction.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that it is very interesting, because like I said, there's, and like you're talking about, like the veterans, there are specific people that should not watch certain types of things.
Right.
And that's where you need to be, like, I can't say it enough, like, be honest with yourself on what you can handle or not. And sometimes it can be hard, because I know a lot of people don't like to spoil movies or look stuff up about them.
Right.
But if it is important to you, like, you just need to be safe and do it. You know, like, I am a big Rotten Tomatoes guy.
Right.
I typically agree with their ratings. I find myself sometimes not, but
the critic ratings or the fan ratings?
Critics.
Ugh.
Fans are stupid most of the time.
I mean, they're the ones going to the movie, but okay. A majority, they'd say the critics are just out of touch, but all right.
My personal, you know, I don't even know what you call it, like movie watching, I typically line up with the critics on what their liking is of it. But Rotten Tomatoes is also great because you have what rating it is, typically a short synopsis that isn't generally spoilers, and of course it tells you, you know, like sex, nudity, drug use, and it always, you know, like, just do your research. I feel like it's not that hard, but
Plugged In also does a great job, and to be honest, I thought, because they're managed by Focus on the Family, and I thought it was just going to be, it's like anything that's over G is an inherent, it's an affront to God, but they actually do. I gotta hand it to them. they do a good job of staying very objective to give the information. Now, granted, they have some kind of worksheet that I would love to get my hand on because they're counting the amount of D words, S words. I mean, and they put it out there. It was mentioned this many times. It was mentioned this many times. If it's important data, they'll say the average swear is 3 swears per minute, which is high. Like, that's it's like, wow, okay. They'll talk about the sexual content in there if it's implied or explicit. They'll talk about drugs if it's implied or explicit. They'll talk about spiritual content, implied or explicit, and they just put the info out there. And then their final paragraph is the way they feel about the movie or TV show or game, and then their personal conclusion. But that's all the way down. They give the data there, and if it is a spoiler, they are open to say this paragraph has spoilers. Stop if it's a thing that you're interested in.
Right.
And then I appreciate also that there's things that they just don't touch. They didn't do the Saw movies because
Yeah. Should be pretty obvious.
Like it's bad, like, so.
Yeah. And I think that it is such an interesting thing because we have verses, in the Bible that tell us, and I think that, and John Piper even brought this up, we need more people who are going against what the culture believes and who are freaks, basically. Yeah. Like, it has become very comfortable and very easy, especially in the Christian world nowadays, to kind of just line right up with where the culture is, just not touching it, but you're right there, you blend in. Right. And I think that
secret agent Christianity is not a thing.
That can be dangerous. And I think that whether it's movies, like, movies are cultural things. It is true. It's never going to be severed from that. It is always something that is cultural, and you have to ask yourself, is it something that is God honoring for me to watch this? And I mean, I still even struggle with that today, like, whether there's a lot of stuff out there that, like, should I be watching this?
We say this as people who watched the Tiger King documentary series and then did an episode on it.
Yeah, and
we still don't know if that was a good idea.
It's a very
probably not
interesting thing, and I still am kind of, digesting it myself. Yeah. And I have been for a long time. What is that, Danny?
No, don't worry about it.
Okay. And I think it's just important. I mean, if you don't take anything away from this, like, just know that it is important to be honest with yourself, be honest with God about what you should be watching and what you shouldn't, and just do the research. Right. And I think what you brought up, whatever that is, I haven't even heard of that, but that's great. Tells you what's in it.
Oh, Plugged In Online?
Tells you if they're spoilers.
They're legit. They're awesome. They're so cool. I still check them, and I
check them
as a youth pastor.
Plugged In Online? Is that its actual name?
Yeah, pluggedinonline.com.
I thought you were just being like a...
No, Plugged In Online.
Google Online.
Go to Alta Vista. All right, but instead of... Because I hate going, like, don't do a negative. Because that's the worst thing you can possibly say. Like, just don't do a sin and you're fine. What are the things we need to be thinking about and need to be putting our attention on?
Well, it's a good thing that the Bible just tells us what it is. Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So,
viewed through that, I think a fair amount of the media decisions get made for you right there.
Right.
And the other thing I brought up, and I'll just briefly summarize it in Matthew chapter 6, is that the eye is the lamp of the body, and it kind of explains that a bit more. Go look it up. But it's this idea of the eye, the things that come into our brain are the things that grow in there. If I go to the store, then I'm committing a crime of social distancing. No, if I go to the store and I buy kind of orange seeds and I plant them, I can't get upset if I don't grow an apple. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trying to grow a spiritually or a connection to Christ, then I need to plant those seeds. And that's by being cautious about the things that I put inside of me. I'm not going to go so far as to say people that watch Game of Thrones are only doing it because of the sex, because I don't feel like that's true. With that said, and I don't know why we're back on Game of Thrones, I'm sorry, but
it's a very good example.
With that stated, there is a fair amount of that in Game of Thrones that I'd say is dangerous and inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't good to the body. So I do think it's more important to things that are true, honorable, just, pure, all those things. Those are the things that we as Christians have to be putting our attention on, instead of everything that is nasty, gross, and going wrong, especially during these times. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I think kind of the rule I have for myself as far as where my brain should be, and obviously it's not like this most of the time, but it's kind of like an 80-20.
Right.
80%, I need to try to be in community. I need to be praying.
Right.
I need to be talking to God. I need to be reading my Bible. I need to be intentionally lining myself up with the Word.
Right.
And being there for people in relationships and stuff like that. You know, like, and then 20%, you know, like, it provides you room to, like, I don't think movies are inherently bad.
No.
Violence,
absolutely not. And if I give off that vibe, I apologize.
It is all fake. You know, like, it's just true. Unless it's a documentary, obviously it's not fake.
And even then, some of them.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of why I feel, and like I said, I'm still digesting it, but that's the main reason that I feel it is okay, and as long as we've, like I said it a million times, we're honest with ourselves.
And I think the thing both of us can be in agreement on is, as people of faith, we should probably be trying to understand the guiding of God in this before just making a snap decision on this is okay.
Right.
Because it sounds as if, and correct me if I'm incorrect or misinterpreting, but there is this thing that I need to be making decisions based on being connected to God first.
Yeah.
As in, that comes first. If I haven't, opened up Scripture in a month and a half, I need to go to an inappropriate movie.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's super good. But, like, just remember that it is a story that is being told and that it is not real, that the violence isn't real, that the drug use is not real sometimes. And there are definitely some movies.
Right. Yeah, okay.
I mean,
but then why did I want to take up archery after Lord of the Rings?
Yeah. I mean, and that's
we
true.
all, though? Like, didn't we?
Like, I think you should go back to our episode. I don't know, you could probably see it in the title. I think it's Make Christian Media Great Again.
41.
And it's really, we talk
that?
about a lot of what I would like to say right here. But basically, to sum it up, I think that Christian movies suck and that we need to not make them bad. Like, to make the characters real, tell the story genuinely. As long as I think the point should be pointing to God. And Lord of the Rings is a great example of, and I talk about a little bit that Christian people can make great media, and that them themselves can point to Christ, which is really weird.
I wanted Angel to be good for that purpose right there. That movie we watched, that I made you watch, I wanted it to be good.
Yeah, it was.
I really did. It was just the best. I need the non-background music cut. We've talked about that. We'll move on. But, like, yeah, I do think I agree on that. And also, there's this balance that we have to strike between us and God in prayer and being honest and not just going like, God agrees with all the things I do. Like, nah, that's just called self-idolatry, and you're fooling yourself. But there is this balance of guarding the heart and engaging the culture. And we have to engage a culture, but can't do so at the expense of a corrupted heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that balance is tricky and is different to every person. And part of that is, if God is screaming, hey, to you, this is inappropriate to go to that, then they need to not go to that. I mean, kind of the Harry Potter argument. Personally, I don't find anything wrong about the books or the movies. I've watched all of them. I think there is a difference between reading a story that has wizards in it and also practicing witchcraft.
Yeah.
I did not come out of those thinking I have to fly on a broom or cast spells. I didn't buy a wand, even a fake wand from a Universal that cost $200 for real. Didn't do that.
Yeah.
Kind of thought it'd be cool, but like didn't have the... That's where I'll put my stimulus money. No, not based on the last episode. Anyway, but there's a difference between those things. But if a person feels as if it would be detrimental to them to engage in that, and they feel God pushing them to abstain from those things, then to them, if they're engaging in them, it would be sinful to do.
Yeah.
Or come out of a place of a sinful heart. Now, I do think there is objective truth, so don't slam me on that. There is an objective truth. There is an objective thing of things that are good and bad, and I think at some point all of us are going to get to heaven and go, wow, okay, kind of screwed that up, didn't know that, and another part's going to be like, nailed that part, okay, good.
Yeah.
And I think all of us are going to have to give an account of that at some point, and everything's going to be made clear. Until then, we have to show grace to each other, but also challenge everybody in grace and love. And that's the balance to strike in this, is understanding that even if I believe in something strong, then I need to be able to understand where another person's coming from and either challenge that or understand that they're just in a different place.
Yeah. I think that's good. And I want to talk to the people who are on the completely opposite end of the movie spectrum, where you don't watch anything. It's all bad unless it's G.
I mean, they're not listening to this podcast.
I don't know. Maybe you are.
You're not.
But
you didn't make it this far. I just said I watched Harry Potter. That would have been the part they tuned out immediately.
I think that basically what I'm trying to say here is give people space. Like, it is good to be encouraging and to push people in the right direction.
Right.
But know that everybody's boundaries are different, and they might be different from yours. So don't be judgmental about it. And I understand you're probably coming from a place of love and trying to be graceful. But I think it's important to basically understand that not everyone is where you are. And obviously, I do think, don't get me wrong, that it is ideal to not watch any movies at all and to just avoid it completely. But...
Well, like, if they, to their defense, if I feel that snorting massive amounts of cocaine is wrong, and I see you about to snort massive amounts of cocaine, I'm going to say something because I feel it's wrong.
That's not what we're talking about.
Well, just hold on. Even if you think it's okay. There are people that think that's okay. So let's kind of conceptually take that. If I feel that this type of media is morally inappropriate at all forms, and that's why I don't do it, because it is inappropriate on all ends, I think it is okay to challenge and say something, but there's a difference between going, oh, hey, do you feel this is appropriate based on this, and having a conversation but on the other end is that, well, I don't do that because I actually care about Jesus. I mean, that's
what I'm talking about.
And I mean, it's okay to challenge and push, especially if they're doing it based on a moral cause, but to not be so self-uppity about it, to think that, well, I'm a better Christian because this, and that.
I mean, you just brought up Harry Potter, so that, like, kind of just brought back so many memories, because, like, our family did watch Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, all that stuff as kids.
Right.
And just to see the gross responses from other parents and from just other friends, like, it just brought back so many memories. So I wanted to say that, like, in a sense that it is good to encourage people.
I opened some wounds. Yeah.
To be better.
Right.
To push themselves and to
so
test
gently.
why their intentionality behind it. That is good to do. Mm-hmm. But do not be, like you said,
well, I'm a better Christian because I don't read Harry Potter.
Right.
Good
if you're
for
using
you.
that tone right there, then just stop talking.
But we love you.
We do love you.
But stop it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, that's
wounds.
Apparently I hit a soft spot. No, I mean, the whole fantasy argument, I don't think fantasy is bad. I think it's a storytelling tool and a device. I think it can become bad if they're also saying, like, and now go practice this at home, or a person goes through that and says, well, I'm going to be a wizard or a witch now too. Yeah, now you're practicing witchcraft and divination. Those are explicitly bad. That is clearly scriptural. Don't do that. As a storytelling element, it gets fuzzy because they gave us J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis gave us two really fantasy-based stories that Christians go, except for those two, and don't have a clear reason why it's wrong. The wizard in J.R.R. Tolkien's work is comparable to an angel. So, like, what do we do with that? You know, like, how do we handle that? And the Harry Potter argument is all wizards are bad except for Gandalf and some of the ones in Narnia, and that one gets kind of strange because, like, well, they have a witch, but she's bad.
Yeah, and I think that it is a very interesting thing that, like, Christians for some reason feel safer watching or reading stuff that is made by Christians. Mm-hmm. Which is a topic. Yeah, I get that. But also, like, does the intentionality, or does the morals of the author, director, writer of media, does that matter? And should we be watching it if they are not Christians?
The problem with this whole conversation is the answer is yes and no, depending on certain contextual differences,
which is what we just talked about.
Right. I mean, that's the thing, and I guess the big encouragement both of us have is come at this prayerfully, and in being humble, and be a little self-aware of things that are and aren't temptations, even cultural temptations. And I didn't get a chance to bring this up, but I mean, the sexual content thing in England, that's far more common and more okay culturally. Mm-hmm. They cannot stand the amount of aggression in American media because it is objectively higher, that there's more guns and everything in American media, but kind of a lot of sexual content, people go like, whoa. Not so much in England or Europe, that they're just like, no, don't be prudish, it's okay to put that in a children's show. And you're like, what the heck, what's wrong with you? Like, put nudity on a billboard. You're like, why though? I mean, it's shocking as an American, but to them, they're saying, like, well, just don't be prudish. And I think there is a cultural aspect to our self-awareness that we have to be aware of as well.
Right. Yeah, it is definitely true. Like, culture, it is in everything.
Right.
I mean, even our churches, like this, I'm going off on a tangent, and we do need to close this because we're going a bit, but like in Revelation, God talks to the churches, and all of the problems they have are directly tied to the city they are in and the culture that is already there. And
especially Sardis, I think. Two of them actually were like, y'all are good. Keep at it. Don't let them push you around.
Yeah. And it's like, it's really an eye opener to show that culture does affect us.
Right.
Your city, your country.
Culture seeps in.
Yeah.
In subconscious bias.
Yeah. Side note, but there it is. It's made.
Yeah.
I think that's it. We kind of covered what we wanted to talk about. Obviously, there's so much more to expand on within the smaller bits of everything, but let us know what you think,
we're tired
guys.
and done talking. No.
Let us know what you think, because do you fully disagree with us? I
hope not
do you
fully.
think
we
that,
made some biblical points in there.
Yeah. Do you think that there's, it's okay to watch civil nudity? We want to hear your thoughts, whatever it is. And you can direct message us on Instagram. You can comment in the YouTube section, and you can go to the gospel.outpost.com/nobodyspecial, where you can find our podcast, and there's a form where you can say hello or ask questions.
Also, be sure you're checking into our Facebook and Instagram pages at Nobody Special Podcast.
Right
that'll
there.
have a different posts, updates as things come open. That's the best place to keep in touch and be able to send us a message. That's probably that's the best way to send us messages, because we actually get them. So the messaging was down on the website for a bit because I got a lot of emails from Canadian Pharmacy, which I'm going to be honest, I don't think it was actually them.
Really?
No, I don't. So, but yeah, please tell us if there's and not just this topic, but any topic. If there's a topic that you're interested in hearing, we want to hear about it so we can talk about it. I don't know why I did the hand thing with the last one.
You do.
Completely unnecessary.
I feel like Danny's getting into his children's ministry where he has to do hand motions with everything.
I've always historically hated that.
Well, you are what you hate now.
Well, I'm trying to. I don't know what it's a Ricky Bobby thing. I don't know what to do with my hands.
So you can tell us. Let's rehearse the hand motion.
So you can tell us what we should talk about.
No, should talk about.
Should talk about. Okay, we're done. Right?
If you want to see what we just did, go to the YouTube version if you're listening. That's gonna be it for us, right?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm Caleb.
And I'm Danny.
And we are
Nobody Special.